14. The Magic. Sarah was so tired that it seemed as if she would never reach her attic. When she finally stepped on the top landing, she saw the light coming from under the door. That meant that Ermengarde had managed to come to the attic. It was better than to go into the room alone and find it empty. Yes, there Ermengarde was, when she opened the door. She was sitting in the middle of the bed, with her feet tucked under her. "I did not expect to see you tonight, Ermie," Sarah said. "Miss Amelia has gone out to spend the night with her old aunt," explained Ermengarde. "No one else ever comes and looks into the bedrooms after we are in bed. I could stay here until morning if I wanted to." She pointed toward the table. A number of books were piled upon it. "Papa has sent me some more books, Sarah," she said. "There they are." Sarah ran to the table and, picking up the top book, turned over its leaves quickly. For the moment she forgot her troubles. "Ah," she cried out, "how beautiful! Carlyle's French Revolution. I have so much wanted to read that." "I haven't," said Ermengarde, "and Papa will be so cross if I don't. What shall I do?" Sarah stopped turning over the leaves and looked at her. "Look here," she cried. "If you'll lend me these books, I'll read them, and tell you everything that's in them afterward." "Do you think you can?" exclaimed Ermengarde. "I know I can," Sarah answered. "Sarah," said Ermengarde, "if you do that, and make me remember, I'll give you anything." "I don't want you to give me anything," said Sarah. "I want your books. I want them." And her eyes grew big. "Take them then," said Ermengarde. It was just at this minute that something happened at the window which neither of them saw. Sarah had keen ears, so she suddenly turned a little and looked up at the roof. "Didn't you think you heard something?" asked Sarah. No," said Ermengarde. "Could it be a robber?" "No," Sarah began. "There is nothing to steal." She broke off in the middle of her words. They both heard the sound. It was not on the roof, but on the stairs below, and it was Miss Minchin's angry voice. "She is scolding Becky," whispered Sarah. "You dishonest child," they heard her say. "Cook tells me she has missed things repeatedly." "You deserve to be sent to prison," said Miss Minchin's voice. "Half a meat pie, indeed." "It wasn't me," said Becky. "I was hungry enough, but it wasn't me." Miss Minchin was enraged. The meat pie had been intended for her special late supper. "Don't lie," she said. "Go to your room this instant." Both Sarah and Ermengarde heard the slap, and then heard Becky run up the stairs into her attic. Sarah stood in the middle of the room. "The cruel thing," she cried. "The cook takes things herself, and then says Becky steals them. She doesn't. She doesn't. She's so hungry sometimes that she eats crusts out of the ash barrel." She pressed her hands hard against her face and burst out crying. Ermengarde had never seen Sarah cry. A new dreadful idea came to her kind, slow little mind. "Sarah," she said in a timid voice, you never told me. I don't want to be rude, but are you ever hungry?" It was too much just at that moment. The barrier broke down. Sarah lifted her face from her hands. "Yes," she said in a new passionate way. "Yes, I am. I'm so hungry now that I could almost eat you. And it makes it worse to hear poor Becky. She's hungrier than I am." Ermengarde gasped. "Oh, Sarah," she cried, "what a silly thing I am." "Why?" "This very afternoon my aunt sent me a box. It is full of good things," said Ermengarde. "It's got a cake in it, and little meat pies, and buns, and oranges, and red currant wine, and chocolate. I'll go back to my room and get it this minute, and we shall eat it now." "Do you think you could?" asked Sarah. "I know I could," answered Ermengarde. "Everybody's in bed. I can creep and creep, and no one will hear." "Air me," said Sarah. "Let us pretend it's a party. And, oh, won't you invite the prisoner in the next cell?" "Yes, yes, let us knock on the wall now. The jailer won't hear." Sarah went to the wall. She knocked 4 times. "That means, 'Come to me through the secret passage under the wall,'" she explained. Almost immediately, the door of the attic opened and Becky appeared. Her eyes were red. "We're going to pretend a party. Miss Ermengarde will bring a box of good things here to us," said Sarah. "Oh, miss! Oh, miss!" gasped Becky. In Sarah's hungry eyes, the old light had begun to transform her world for her. "It is as if the magic did it," she thought. They pulled the old table forward and threw Ermengarde's shawl over it. Then Sarah decorated it with flowers from her old summer hat and put white handkerchiefs, pretending that they were napkins. When Ermengarde returned, the party started. "It's like a real party," cried Ermengarde. "It's like a queen's table," sighed Becky. They barely had time to take their pieces of cake into their hands when they heard the steps. Someone was coming up the stairs. There was no mistake about it. Each of them knew that the end of all things had come. "It's the missus," whispered Becky, and dropped her piece of cake upon the floor. "Yes," said Sarah, her eyes growing shocked and large in her small white face. "Miss Minchin has found us out." Miss Minchin opened the door with a blow of her hand. She was pale and angry. "Lavinia was telling the truth," she said. So they knew that it was Lavinia who had somehow guessed their secret and had betrayed them. Miss Minchin came up to Becky and gave her a slap for a second time. "You impudent creature," she cried. "Go to your attic. You leave the house in the morning." Sarah stood quite still, her eyes growing larger, her face paler. Ermengarde burst into tears. "Oh, don't send her away," she sobbed. "My aunt sent me these things. We're only having a party." "So I see," said Miss Minchin. "With the Princess Sarah at the head of the table," she turned on Sarah. "It is your doing, I know," she cried. "You decorated the table, I suppose with this rubbish. I will attend to you tomorrow. You shall have neither breakfast, dinner, nor supper." "I have not had either dinner or supper today, Miss Minchin," said Sarah. "Then all the better. You will have something to remember." She began to put the food off the table into the box herself, and saw Ermengarde's new books. "And you," to Ermengarde, "have brought your beautiful new books into this dirty attic. Take them up and go back to bed. You will stay there all day tomorrow, and I shall write to your papa." She picked up the books, thrust them into Ermengarde's arms, pushed her before her towards the door, and left Sarah standing quite alone. The dream was quite at an end. "There isn't any party left," said Sarah, "and there isn't any princess. There is nothing left but the prisoners in the Bastille." Then she got up and went slowly to the bed. "I can't pretend anything else," she said. "If I go to sleep, perhaps a dream will come and pretend for me." She suddenly felt so tired that she fell fast asleep. When she awakened, she was so warm and comfortable, indeed, that she did not believe she was really awake. Her eyes opened in spite of herself. "Oh, I haven't awakened," she whispered. "I am dreaming yet." She knew it must be a dream. In the fireplace there was a cheerful fire. On the hob was a little brass kettle boiling. On the floor there was a thick, warm red rug. Before the fire, a folding chair, and with cushions on it. By the chair, a small folding table, unfolded, covered with a white cloth, and upon it small dishes, a cup, a saucer, a teapot. On the bed were new warm blankets. She saw a silk dressing gown, a pair of shoes, and some books. The room of her dream seemed changed into fairyland, and it was full of warm light because a bright lamp stood on the table, covered with a rosy shade. "Oh, it isn't true," she said. "It can't be true. But oh, how true it seems." She got up, touched the table, the dishes, the rug. She took up the soft dressing gown. "It's all real," she cried. I am not dreaming." She opened the book, which lay upon the top. Something was written on the first page, just a few words, and they were these: "To the little girl in the attic, from a friend." She burst into tears. "I don't know who it is," she said, "but I have a friend." She took her candle and stole out of her own room and into Becky's. "Becky, Becky," she whispered as loudly as she could, "wake up." When Becky wakened, beside her stood a little figure in pink dressing gown. The Princess Sarah, as she remembered her, stood at her very bedside, holding a candle in her hand. "Come," she said. "Oh, Becky, come." Becky got up and followed her, with her mouth and eyes open, and without a word. "It's true," she cried. "I've touched them all. They are as real as we are. The magic has come and done it, Becky, while we were asleep."